ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Friday, June 5th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's show. We're going to get you set with everything happening this weekend, and we're going to also hear from you. Our text line, it's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK. That is 304-396-8255. Coming up in the next few minutes, we get a special guest. We haven't talked to him in a while, and the last time I spoke with him, I had actually someone on X tell me never to speak to him again. So you see how well I listen. Michael Adams is joining us. He is now the publisher of the West Virginia Sports Digest. So we'll talk to him in the next few minutes. The state baseball tournament begins tomorrow with Class Single A getting underway at Jack Cook Field. It's been a busy week getting set for the tournament. Yesterday, if you missed it, we talked to Andrew Brown about the facilities getting ready for the tournament. A couple of days ago, we talked to Ryan Crisp, who gave us a kind of a look at what it took to get this tournament to Huntington. We also talked to Wayne Ryan, the executive director of the WVSSAC, got his thoughts a few days ago, so you can go back and listen to all those interviews on our podcast page. That's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also just go to our website and you can download it there. You can listen on the website anytime when we post them, and that's at WRVC.com. So we're going to talk to Michael in a few minutes, get his thoughts about the state softball tournament, and looking ahead to action getting underway tomorrow at Jack Cook Field. Baseball action earlier today. The Mountaineers one step closer to getting themselves to the College World Series, beating Cal Poly 12-2 in Game 1 of the Morgantown Super Regional. Crowd was tremendous. So the Mountaineers, and I think a lot of people in the state of West Virginia have just jumped on this bandwagon as well. Mountaineers are rolling right now, taking on Cal Poly again. And if Mountaineers should win, they would advance, and that is coming up tomorrow. That's going to be on ESPN2 for those of you interested. That'll be at high noon. I think the Mountaineers will win that one easily. We, of course, are going to be focused on baseball action this weekend with the state tournament getting underway. And, of course, we've got Huntington St. Joe, local teams. We've got Huntington High. We have got Cabell Midland, we've got Spring Valley. So we've got a lot of local interest just in the immediate area. And I'm just talking about Huntington proper. And then we go out a little bit further, and then we go out a little bit further. So it's a nice mix of teams from the region and, of course, from outside the immediate area. So if you're tuned in from one of those immediate area teams getting set for the baseball tournament, we appreciate that. And, of course, if you're new to the program, we appreciate you as well. And, again, that text line, if you want to be on the show, is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Just remember, do me this favor, just remember, with a lot of people that are coming into town, and I don't expect anyone to do differently, but with a lot of people coming into town, just make sure that you're a good host. You know, if someone's got colors from a different team and they're trying to figure their way around, hey, what's a good place to go eat? You know, where's a great place, to get a bite to eat, something like that. Whatever the question may be, just make sure you're being good and giving them the best you possibly can, and showing them the Huntington's a really nice place and it's a really fun town, and we thank them for coming. So I just want to encourage people to do that, and I don't anticipate anyone doing anything less than that. I mean, on the baseball field, of course, we want to root against the other team, right? Depending on what school you represent, you want to root against the other team, but at the same time, let's make sure that these people enjoy their stay at Jack Cook Field in Huntington, and make sure that they're able to get around and know what what they can do, what they can expect, and let's make sure that of course we're good sports as well. All right. I know I'm the guy probably writing the signs up that, hey, your kid at Little League is not getting drafted, telling those parents to kind of make the game bad for everybody else. You know that one person, that one that one parent that thinks that, this kid is set for Major League Baseball and it's Little League. That this is it. Here it is. The baseball scouts are out and they're here today to see my 5-year-old play. We're going to get that MLB money. No, don't be that parent. Would you please? I'm serious. Don't be that parent. We've got other action to talk about. Of course, last night we got a series. Carolina beat Las Vegas in overtime. Series tied now 1 apiece. And the Stanley Cup final, Game 3, going to be Saturday night in Las Vegas. We've got the game on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. Coming up tonight, also on the Big Cat, it's going to be Game 2 of the NBA Finals between the Knicks and Spurs. We go on the air at 7:30. The series 1-0 in favor of the Knicks. Can it be 2-0? Can we start talking about a sweep if it's 2-0? Could that be? We've got the entirety of the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Final on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. And just as a programming reminder, I'm not going to be with you next week because starting tomorrow, we've got every game, every session of the state baseball tournament. You can listen to all the games Saturday and then again Monday through Friday and then the following Saturday. So we're going to have everything from the opening round to the semis to the championship. Every class, every game right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And of course, that means we're not going to have the full schedule of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We apologize for that for Pirates fans. The Pirates did get a win yesterday over the Astros, 5-1. Bucks are opening up a series tonight in Atlanta, and we'll have that game for you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Yankees got the better of the Guardians yesterday, 2-1. Guardians playing Texas tonight at 8:15. Reds also opening up a series tonight, 8:15 in St. Louis. So a lot of baseball action going on this weekend, and of course, a lot of it's going to be right here on your home. Basically baseball. We're just your baseball home. That's amazing. We've got all those games. The tournament's expanded. We've got all those games. So you can just lock in. If you can't make it to every session, you want to catch maybe Spring Valley, you want to tune in to Huntington High, you want to tune in to Cabell Midland, we've got you covered. Just don't forget, you can listen over the air. You can also listen on the website. Just head over to WRVC.com. Or you can stream the games through our app. You can also get that app. The link is available at WRVC.com. When we continue, we're going to talk to Michael Adams. He is a Marshall grad. He has got a new sports publication, and he's been covering the state softball tournament. He's going to be covering the baseball tournament as well, and he'll be covering a lot of Marshall athletics here in the future. Our good friend Michael Adams joins us when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thank you, Dave. Bad news, Dave. We're going to be knocking you off the air as well. We've got every single game from Jack Cook Field coming up next week. That includes the session at 10 a.m., so no Metro News Talk Line next week. Sorry, Dave. No Drive with Paul Swann next week as well. That's a big deal, so we better make today's show good. Welcome back to our Friday edition here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. My next guest, the last time we had him on, the community on X told me never to have him on again, so I did not listen. Welcome back, Michael Adams. He is now the publisher, did I get that right? Publisher of the West Virginia Sports Digest, publisher, founder, owner. Just basically you do it all, right?
All the things. And when you say do it all, I technically do it all, from web development to everything.
What made
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about this a few weeks ago, and you've been pumping out the content nonstop. What possessed you to come back here? You had a really nice gig going in Texas.
Yeah, well, it was Austin's a funny media market. It really was, and it was going good, and the audience was growing great, but it just came down to a time of, my family is back here. My dad lives up in Mason County. My sister lives in Charleston, and it just sort of kind of all came together, and kind of up to a point where it's like, my dad's getting older. He's got he's 71, 72 years old, about to be 72 years old. And just, time to go back and spend, be with him for the last part of his life and get closer to my family. And just, it's hard to say no when the country roads start calling. So I said, let's pack it up, go home, and found somebody in Austin to kind of take over the Sports Journal, or take it over in the fall, and still going to keep ownership of that. But I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to West Virginia, and I bet I can get this going here and just do something really special for West Virginia sports, because I don't think there's a lot of, people love sports here in West Virginia, and I think that, you can never have too much of a good thing.
Michael Adams joins us. He is now the publisher and everything else, including head dishwasher for West Virginia Sports Digest. So I was joking, at top of the segment that, and last segment as well. Seriously, last time you were on, you ticked off a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
What were we doing here? We ticked off. Well, not we. You ticked off. I had people tell me never to have you on again. You were almost the Antichrist. So what has changed?
Well, I mean, I was, and I'll be honest. It sometimes it's fun to poke the bear, and it was, and it was so, something I was just. It wasn't really kind of like, well, I believed a lot of what I said, and I think it was more about the Louisiana Tech thing, which, as you know, they are now a part of the Sun Belt. I don't know, but I kind of mended fences with everybody. When Texas State played Marshall, I wrote this column talking about how, passionate the fan base is, and, just, it really is. It's Marshall has a very passionate fan base, and sometimes I mean, just like with anybody, you don't really like a little bit of criticism, whether it's honest criticism or you're just sort of poking the bear like I was. But, the truth is, Paul, I love Marshall. I love West Virginia. I love the state. I'm coming back here and I'm finding myself prideful about certain things. And I was at the state softball tournament this past weekend, and I took a picture of a hot dog I was eating at the field. And I sent it to one of my friends in Texas. I said, "This is West Virginia cuisine, and it's actually really good." And they kind of laughed, and I was like, "But that's what West Virginia is." And it's a very close community. There's a lot to be proud of in West Virginia, from the mountains to Marshall to WVU to the high schools, and that's kind of what drew me back. But when I brought the West Virginia Sports Digest online, that was kind of the deal. It was like, there's a lot of pride in West Virginia. Let's showcase that pride. And, you see it. Like the softball tournament I was at for the last 2 weeks, it was hard to find a place to take pictures because there were so many fans that they were lined up down the baselines, and you're playing on this field that kind of resembled a Little League field. And I'm just like, well, how am I supposed to take pictures? To the fans, can I squeeze in here? And, but that's just the community, and that's what West Virginia is all about. So I said, you take that, you take their love of sports, boom, now you have the West Virginia Sports Digest.
All right, so I'm going to ask the big question here. You're doing everything on your own right now. You've done this before, so you have a business model, but how can something like this thrive? What convinced you that I can pull this off, I can make this work in West Virginia?
If I can, well, two things. One, and I mean this with love, if I can pull that off what I did, and be honest, I was getting millions of views across Austin. I was covering 119 high schools. We really, and Texas State, and it takes time, right? You have to establish yourself. Kind of, people have to start noticing what you do. And one virtue that I have that many people probably would tell you is I'm probably the most extremely patient person you'll ever meet. Do I get frustrated? Yes. Do I want to throw my hands up? Sometimes, but I'm very patient with things. So what really kind of made me think that this would work here is like, I'm going from 119 high schools covering everything from San Antonio to Austin pretty much, which is a very big area. That's kind of like driving from Huntington to Morgantown. Actually, maybe a little bit, Morgantown's probably a little bit further, but kind of like a similar thing. And, it's just like, you just find those stories about community. One of the things that I've learned throughout my career is that communities matter. Community and people and communities love high school sports. It's what represents the community. When you're the Winfield Generals and you're winning the state championships as a softball team, you're winning it for the town of Winfield. Same with every school, even in the bigger cities like Huntington High, Cabell Midland, Huntington St. Joe, you're winning that for the community. And the community comes around that. So when I started thinking about it, I'm like, this model works in Austin, and I'm competing against every big major TV station, the city newspaper. Not only that, but Texas's media market is you've got the Dallas Morning News. Even though you're in Austin, you're competing with them, especially when high school sports. And Dave Campbell's Texas football, which is kind of where my focus is going to be with this, is kind of taking that and bringing it to West Virginia. And if you're not familiar with it, that's every year they publish a big magazine. Every high school's previewed in it. Every college from the junior college in Corsicana, Texas, to the University of Texas. Every one of them's covered. It's a big deal. They consider it the Bible of Texas football. And one thing I'll point out is West Virginia high school football culture. While we don't produce, every once in a while you get that generational talent, but you're not producing like D1 recruit after D1 recruit after D1 recruit like they are in Texas. There's still passion for West Virginia high school football. And I think that needs to be showcased. And honestly, that's what drove me to do what I'm doing and why I said, let's start this, because we can do the football, we can make that our primary focus, but also keep everything else in perspective, like all the other high school sports. But West Virginia high school football, man, Friday Night Lights in West Virginia is still something very special. And I think that deserves something like Dave Campbell's Texas football here in West Virginia.
My friend Michael Adams joins us. He is back in West Virginia Sports Digest. Let me ask you this, and I mean this sincerely, because I want to get your answer on this. There's a lot of quality out there right now with coverage of high school in West Virginia, and I know the challenge is there, and you're not shying away from it. What do you think that's going to set you apart from, say, a Metro News or an HD Media, just using some local examples there? What do you think that you're going to be able to bring, or you want to bring, that is different enough that's going to help you stand apart, or at least not be more of the same?
That's a very good question. I would say one thing I learned in Texas, and one thing I think you know this, but maybe your audience doesn't. Ernie Salvatore was my mentor through college, the great Ernie Salvatore. And one thing Ernie taught me early on, and I didn't get it until later on in my career, was go find the story beyond the final score. For example, Winfield winning a state championship is a story all in itself, right? But what about the pitcher who threw a perfect game in the quarterfinals, barely gave up hits against Hubert Hoover, really commanded the game? That's what made the championship. That's a story in itself. Or the sisters that played, or Morgantown winning its first state championship. It's finding that story within the story that has really evolved in my career, and something that Ernie really instilled in me, and I later learned on from, good from Texas sports writers like Kirk Bowles, Cedric Golden, and what my good friend Rick Cantu, who's just getting ready to retire after 45 years, was just finding those stories. And that's one thing I will say, and I don't like to toot my own horn. I'm not a big pat myself on the back person, but one thing that I'm always able to find is that one story that really kind of resonates with the community. in high school sports. And that goes beyond what, Morgantown won a state championship. Well, that's great, but, they've been a program for 20 years, and this is their first one. The coach had won one when she played, and now she brought that championship energy to Morgantown. Or the irony that Morgantown and University was playing in a championship game, and both high schools are in the same city as the state's flagship university, which doesn't have a softball team. So I think my experience is really going to speak, and it's going to show in my work. And I think that's what really will set me apart. And you're right. I mean, and I said this, I think, when I wrote my introductory kind of column, like, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing. West Virginia does have good quality sports journalism. Your show, the Herald-Dispatch, does a really good job. Metro News, there's a lot. The Dominion Post, there's a lot of good sports journalists here. I'm not here trying to duplicate what they're doing or try to say, well, I'm better. I'm just going to add value to what everybody else can get, something different.
Michael Adams joins us. West Virginia Sports Digest is the publication, and again, he's a local guy, Marshall guy. He's got family here. He didn't mean to upset everybody when he was talking about Texas State, so in Louisiana Tech. He apologized for that. Find the story. You say behind the story, because I wrote that down because it's an Ernie quote, and Ernie and I spent many a year talking to one another, and he was a dear man, and toward the end of his life, it was just I looked at him one time and said, because he didn't come to a Reds caravan. I'm like, Ernie, just call me. I would have driven you here. That was the kind of guy he was. Like, just call me. I'll give you the ride. And he left a lot of inspirational quotes and just pep talks for a lot of people. So he's somebody that I dearly miss, and I truly I made him cry one time. I hated that.
It's funny. I've told this story to a few people. I don't know if I've told you.
Yeah.
But this is how we met. So in '99, I got an internship at the Herald-Dispatch. I hadn't even taken a journalism class yet, and I got hired as a summer intern at the Herald-Dispatch doing community news in Ironton, Ohio. And I was helping with obituaries or something one day, and I was sitting at my desk, and I had my head in my face, or my face in my hands, rubbing my head. Ernie was walking in for the day, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Kid, you're going to have to get a thick skin if you're going to make it in this business." And from that point on, Ernie and our friendship grew throughout the years. He, like I said, he kind of mentored me, kind of always had, like you said, he always had those little slogans. And the one that's always stuck with me is find the story that goes beyond the final score. So that was what it was. So that's how Ernie and I met. And it was a friendship that blossomed because that really made me understand the business a little bit more than the 4 years I studied at Marshall.
Yeah, he's a tremendous man. And when I was alluding to, I made him cry one time. He told me the entire story from the plane crash, just like in his own words. And one day I'm going to unearth that mini disc again, and then I'll put that out there for everybody to hear again. That goes back to another radio company years and years ago. But Ernie was that type of guy, and so I was so excited to be there when it was unveiled that the press box was named after him. So he meant a lot to a lot of people. We're still talking about him to this day. That's how much he meant to all of us. Michael Adams is with us. Before I hit the commercial break, and I can keep you for another segment because I've got commercials to take, and I want to get into a lot of the meat of what we're going to talk about because the high school softball tournament wrapping up, and of course get the state baseball tournament. So I don't want to press you for too much time, but at the same time I want to keep you as long as we can. So I need to take a quick break. We'll come back and we will continue. Michael Adams is joining us from the West Virginia Sports Digest. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We continue on with your Friday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We'll get to the text line in just a few minutes at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can find me on X at Paul Swann. So far, no one has gotten upset. Michael Adams is joining us from West Virginia Sports Journal. I'm sorry, Sports. I'm used to Austin Sports Journal. West Virginia Sports Digest.
Correct.
And it is website. You've got Facebook as well. You've got social media, so people can find you everywhere. I'm curious what's been the initial response from people, fans, as they find it. Anybody else in particular as well? What's the good word?
Well, I will say this. So I started at May 11th, and I kept metrics. You know, I'm a data guy, so I keep a lot of metrics and data, and really look at it deep and kind of really look where thing is. I'll tell you, if you compare the first month that when I started the Austin Sports Journal, which I did successfully for 3 years, and it's still ongoing, of course, but the first month I started that compared to the first month of the West Virginia Sports Digest, my traffic is 220% higher in West Virginia in the first month than it was in Austin.
That's good.
So, yeah, it was, and I'm doing it with zero. I've not marketed it to anybody. I'm not buying Facebook promotions or anything like that. I'm just going. I'm not even passing out like business cards or anything. I'm just going to cover and really kind of what I wanted to do. And the reason there's a strategy behind that. What I want to do was just generate content for the website. So come August, when I really go full in on this, I've got a website that's got back content that's already there. People can go back and see the work. And you can still go see it now, of course. But, it's not just a website that's just going to be blank in August when football season starts. There's going to be stuff there already. And it's got Marshall, WVU. I'm going to do my best to include all of the West Virginia colleges during football season because, there's a lot of Division II. One thing I really found interesting when I came back and was kind of doing my research, there's a lot of Division II football programs in West Virginia, and they're good, quality, historical football programs, which I kind of knew before. But, you're away for 25 years. You forget things.
That Mountain East is really good. I'm not lying to you. That Mountain East is really good.
And I'm going to make a short plug. My nephew, Amari Felder, who used to play at Huntington High and Ironton, is going to be playing at West Liberty in the fall. He's transferring up to West Liberty, so he'll be playing in that conference next year. But yeah, so there's a lot of good D2 schools, so we're going to get into that a little bit. Just really kind of trying to highlight what makes West Virginia sports really special, and it is. And a lot of people outside these borders don't really know it, and I kind of feel like they should, because there's good athletes here.
Our guest is Michael Adams, West Virginia Sports Digest, the new publication. Michael is back covering everything across the state. So you were at the softball tournament, and of course, you can read all about it on the website, but just your early impressions of softball tournament one for you. As you probably know, and I'm a big softball guy. I used to cover the University of Texas, which just won a national championship yesterday. Real big into the college softball community. Did a really great interview with Kat Osterman, who's one of the more prominent faces of the sport. So I'm a big softball guy, and I got to tell you, I was impressed. I was vastly impressed by the level of talent across all four classifications. And you could really tell who the teams were. We talked about Winfield earlier, Morgantown coming out, Cabell Midland really came in the tournament looking like they were going to be the team to beat. And I guess they just had a rough day on Wednesday in the semifinals with Morgantown, who ended up winning 4A. And then I think Parkersburg South, beat them. Just sort of had a rough day at the plate. Drea Watts, the pitcher, was still dominant throughout the tournament, but they just couldn't get the bats going. And then when you go back last week to the 1A and 2A, man, Wheeling Central had some really good games. They were just powering the ball. Wahama,
who school I grew up with. I didn't go there. I went to Point Pleasant, but Wahama, their softball program, led by Wes Riffle, man, that's a hell of a program, or heck of a program. And he's got them going. They're young. They'll be back next year. Point Pleasant, also a program that's kind of growing. I mean, I was just real impressed all while. But the story of the tournament was pitching. I mean, it was at a premium from the girl from Morgantown, Madison Wisman, who was going to Robert Morris. She was just dominant. The girl from Winfield, Madeline Carroll, she was really great. We already talked about Watts. Maddie Campbell from University, who I will say, just from observation, was probably the best player in the whole tournament, even though University lost to Morgantown in the championship. Pitching was just across the board the story of the whole tournament.
Now we move on to baseball. That's where you're going to be really busy, because we've got this 4-class tournament. Jack Cook Field, first time being hosted at Marshall University. The tournament is expanded for people in the immediate area. We've got a lot of local teams. Of course, you've got a great flavor from teams across the state as well, and you're right in the middle of it. What's your early thoughts on how this could go in each classification? You got a favorite?
Well, I think honestly, what I've learned with high school baseball over the years, and I'm sure West Virginia is not different, it is unpredictable. Anybody can beat anybody. But I will say, from my early analysis and early research, I have to say, if you're a betting person, Huntington St. Joe is probably the safest bet. That is a solid team up and down the lineup. Pitching is outstanding. If I'm picking a team, if I'm going to make a true prediction, I would go with St. Joe all the way. But in 1A or in 2A and above, I think it's anybody's game. I mean, Wheeling Central always produces good athletic programs. I wouldn't bet against them. The one that's really going to be fun to watch for me is probably the 4A, because I think there's 8 teams in that bracket, and any of those 8 teams can win. And I'm going to ask, just out of a curiosity, you say it was an expanded format. Did it used to be just 4 teams, or are they expanding also to 8 teams?
Well,
how is that working?
Classifications recently jumped. 4A, Quad A. I don't call it Quad A, but I better. Quad A, it's more the bigger schools now. So, you've gotten 4 classes, and it used to be 4 teams. And so, we've now expanded to 8 teams. So there are going to be 8 teams per classification, which has really helped open it up. There is some good baseball being played, and there are teams that were getting victimized so they just couldn't get out and get to the state final. So it's expanded. And, talking to Andrew Brown yesterday, the fact that Marshall University was able to win this was kind of partially because it can accommodate such a bigger field as well. So that really played in Marshall's favor. Right.
It's interesting because coming from Texas, I'm still getting my hands wet and all that, and coming from Texas where they played the football championships at Dallas Cowboy Stadium. The baseball was played at Round Rock, the AAA affiliate of, I think they're the Rangers affiliate now. They played at Dell Diamond. It's like, and it's kind of, I'm starting to learn how these events get picked. But when I saw that the baseball was at Marshall, I was like, now that feels like a state championship. And I was kind of be curious to see if there's not more of a push for that in the future of like getting these high school championships at some of these bigger facilities like Marshall, like WVU, or someplace like that. It always made it feel more like a state championship, in my opinion. But
I think I've got the right cut queued up. We were talking to Andrew Brown yesterday about that, because there's a push by Marshall University to do a lot more when it comes to using the facilities, and he talked about showcasing the facilities. I think this is the right cut. Let me share that with you.
Yeah, exactly. We have a Herd Hospitality team. Their job and their objective is really to bring in revenue-generating events, bring people to the area, and so anything we can do to showcase that opportunity, right? Again, we have really nice venues. They're great for our teams. can we use them for multiple sports? Can we use them for concerts? Can we use them for any sort of activation that'll help the community and help us at the same time?
That's Andrew Brown. He's got so many titles, but he basically handles a lot of the operations facilities for Marshall University. And so that's a big push from Brad Smith and this athletic department as well. Use these facilities, use them for things outside of just the normal day-to-day that Marshall University, So if a baseball tournament like this comes up available, Marshall now can go after it and did and got it. And you might see that as well for some other sports. I know they've pitched it in the past for football, but they really nailed it for baseball, and that's the push at Marshall University. And I'm sure that might follow. I think that Marshall's got the advantage in baseball because it's the newest facility. It's probably the best facility. The one in Morgantown gives it a run for its money, but they're busy right now getting set for possibly a College World Series. So I don't think the facility is going to be open anytime soon up there.
No, me neither. And it goes kind of to when I envision a state championship. So one thing that was really cool, and I'm just going to bring my Texas experience into it. These kids, when they got out in August, you're playing for a goal, right? At the end of the year, you get to play your final high school football game at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. How cool would it be if and put yourself in a kid's shoes. I'm a senior at Huntington High or a senior at Spring Valley or X high school in West Virginia. How cool would it be to say, all right, our goal at the end of the year is to play at the Joan or go play at Mountaineer Field up in Morgantown? How cool would that be? And it just added more to play, I guess, as a kid, if you're looking at it from a kid's eyes, just gives you a little bit more to play for, right? So I don't know. I'm all for using some of these facilities. Like we're playing the state volleyball championships. I don't know. Do they still play volleyball at the Cam Henderson Center?
Marshall does have a volleyball team.
They do have a volleyball team. So how cool would it be for a high school kid to go play their state championship game on the court at the Cam Henderson Center or something, like that? I always thought that kind of was a really cool thing. And I'm obviously not a kid anymore. Way far from it, I guess, at these days. But, just putting yourself in those shoes, like, man, that would just be really cool. Being a whole experience, right, for playing a state championship game. So, I don't know. I'm all for that. So,
I know you've got some catch up.
In the right direction.
Yeah, I know you've got some catch up to do because you've been away for 20-some odd years. But there's going to be stunt as well, so get ready for that. Get well versed. Get ready. So we can have another show on that because I was kind of wondering why they didn't go with women's flag football, but stunt works too. Stunt works too. Well, they've got the facilities for that now. They can make that. They don't have to transition too much in the facilities. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
That was probably the easier get, and so they're starting with stunt to expand and improve their Title IX and get those numbers up. So stunt is happening soon, of course. There was a joke, maybe a push for beach volleyball a couple years ago. I don't know if the former football coach was just joking around, but hey, that is a sponsored sport in the Sun Belt, so maybe we'll see that. Our guest,
that's a growing sport too, by the way. Beach volleyball is huge.
I'm still pushing for hockey, but I'm not gonna get that. I know better. I absolutely know better. That's why I have not bothered Gerald with that, just yet. Michael Adams joins us, the West Virginia Sports Digest. It's new and it's out now. So tell people how they can get involved. Is this a pay service? Is it a free service? What do we got? Right
now it's free. I'm hoping my overall goal is to generate enough ad revenue to where I don't have to make it a pay site. There's still bills to pay. It still costs a little bit of money to do this. So, but my overall goal is to just generate enough revenue from advertising, sponsorship deals to where I can say, all right, we're not putting a paywall up on this website. So right now it's free. Everything's free. You don't have to, there's no paywall or pop-up ads or anything like that. You can go to wvsportsdigest.com, which is also the Twitter handle, and every other social media handle is WV Sports Digest on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, I guess is what it's called, YouTube, TikTok, all of it. And it really is, when you're talking about it, it's not really just a website. I kind of view it as a multimedia platform. Like, it's not just going to be stories. There's going to be videos. There's going to be lots of photos. I love taking pictures. I like to think I'm a decent photographer, but I like to take pictures and all that. So, there's photo galleries, there's going to be video, there's going to be web stories, there's going to be a lot of quick hit type stuff. So, check it out. It's going to be, I really, if it blossoms into what I had in Austin, it's going to be something that people are really going to attach themselves to, because, my passion and my work ethic is, will speak for itself in the work.
Michael Adams joins us. West Virginia Sports Digest, wvsportsdigest.com. The socials are right there at the top of the website, so you can hit those and hit like on everything you're on. Michael, this will be the first of many times. Good talking to you again, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Michael Adams, everyone. Again, that website is wvsportsdigest.com. A quick timeout. We come back. We're going to wrap it up for the week and for next week as well here on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive. Not going to be back with you next week, unfortunately, but the good news is we've got a good reason for it. We've got the state baseball tournament beginning tomorrow. We go on the air 9:45, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the following Saturday. All the games from the state tournament right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I want to thank our guest, Michael Adams, for joining us, West Virginia Sports Digest. He wanted to say, he said, I forgot to tell everybody, we're a statewide publication. We're not just a local publication. We're statewide. So I told him we'll get him next time on that, but I'll push it now. West Virginia Sports Digest is going to be a statewide publication, so he's going to be covering top to bottom the state of West Virginia, high school sports, Marshall, West Virginia, a lot of the Division II schools as well, and anything in between that falls through the cracks. So good talking to him today. I'll be back with you a week from Monday. We've got the state tournament, but you can still find me on X at Paul Swann. And, of course, don't forget, you've got the podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast, or just go to our website. You can download the app. You can also listen to the podcast. It's available at WRVC.com. Again, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of The Drive. I'll be back with you in 1 week after the state baseball tournament right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
WRVC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.